Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about Tesla, and more specifically, their Dojo computer and what they can do with that in the future, or what they can't do with it. In this video, I want to answer three specific questions on this topic. First being, what is the Dojo computer that they're building? Two, how can Tesla monetize this? And the third being, if they can even achieve anything near to AWS or Microsoft's Azure. Now, many investors were disappointed with Tesla's last quarter's profitability due to its spending on their expanding supercomputer called Dojo. And we can see that showing up in their profitability and on their income statement and balance sheet. Now, let's look at their capital expenditures. Last quarter, it was around $7.8 billion. And although short-term profits can be lucrative and exciting, I believe that those investors who are worried about this increase in capital expenditures are missing the bigger growth story for what this custom-built Dojo computer can provide for Tesla in the future. I also think that this could be the beginning stages of what could be like an AWS-like business. Now, before we go deeper into depth about what the financials could look like in the future, let's first explore, what does the Dojo computer even do, and what is it? Now, why are they building this advanced computer in the first place? Well, Tesla is constructing what some may call a supercomputer, but a more accurate description is calling it an artificial intelligence training cluster. So most of these computer systems are built using NVIDIA and AMD's existing designs, but in a form factor better suited for industry use in racks within cabinets, and not just like the one you'd put in your computer at home and like play a video game. However, Tesla is taking a different approach, as they have designed their own chips that are specialized in performing the model training that Tesla needs. Now, many companies do this. Google makes their own TPUs, Amazon makes their own chips and their own designs, and I'm sure many other companies do as well. And the reason for that is NVIDIA marks their prices up so high with their certain H100 chips because of the demand that these companies are just seeking any better alternative to lower costs and bring in more money to the bottom line. Now, back to the training. This type of training primarily uses visual sensors for Tesla, so similar to those of a human, to execute its tasks, like full self-driving now, and eventually its Optimus robot, and whatever other AI system or robotic thing that you can think of could use visual sensors for. This is what this is able to compute and train. Now, this approach that they're using is similar to that of Apple's, as they are attempting to optimize the overall systems by creating the software and hardware that not only their cars run on, but also their AI modeling. So this can offer Tesla many advantages, whether it's increased efficiency within their modeling, or eventually the decreased reliance on other data centers and compute providers for their AI development. Now, bringing the chip designing and data centers in-house is also another advantage for Tesla, as NVIDIA's chips, like I said earlier, have seen a steep markup due to the increased demand over the past year. Since Tesla is not reliant on their exact chip designs, they are able to ramp up their AI training without having to pay these higher than usual prices, saving them money and time in the long run. And Elon Musk has stated that the current version of their Dojo computer is specifically for labeling their full self-driving efforts and eventually the humanoid Optimus bot in development now. But who knows what else this could expand to, or if they eventually rent out their compute power similar to that of AWS, Microsoft Azure, and GCP to then drive a whole new stream of profit and revenue. Now that we've discussed what this Dojo computer is, let's see, how can Tesla even monetize this? And to answer that question, it can be helpful to look at other businesses that have similar infrastructure and similar goals to Tesla. Now, the reason you would want to bring your data centers and your compute power in-house is to either benefit from the specialization that you are now in control of how this compute power is exactly used, what chips are used, what designs are used, and where it's located, as well as if you had sensitive data that you had to make sure was under certain security guidelines, or even if you had data that was stored on another server, but the government subpoenaed that company to give your data to them, they of course would, and you would not have control over that. And that can be another advantage of bringing that in-house. Tesla can also monetize this new computer in many different ways, but the most obvious one is to develop full self-driving for their cars. With this new compute power essentially going to training these models and eventually creating a product like full self-driving, they could roll that out in their new robotaxi network. which could add hundreds of billions to their market cap. As they're able to ramp up this computer, the training will advance at an exponential rate. And as an investor, if you want them to generate more free cash flow over time, I understand that this may be a hit to the short-term profitability, but just imagine if every car that they now have out in the world is now able to participate in this robotaxi network. And that would be a very high margin business for them, as they would just take a fee off of an Uber-like service that's already built onto all of their cars. And these numbers right here that we're seeing would skyrocket upwards, especially as they've already built the infrastructure and completed the modeling, and now they just have all this compute power online, willing to maybe rent it out to other companies who need to use it, or just making themselves more vertically integrated and less affected by people like Nvidia or companies that are giving them components and stuff that they might not want to pay for that elevated price. Now let's say Tesla figures out full self-driving. They use their Dojo computer to effectively solve this problem and are able to have full self-driving cars. So what do they do with it now? Well, if they're able to solve that real-world AI, visual learning type of problem, it's not too much of a leap to think that they could then solve that for the Optimus robot, which they have been working on for quite a while at this point. And although we don't have a timeline on when this Optimus product would be released, it's important to note what the competitive landscape would look like. Who else is publicly stating that they are putting this much money and effort behind these AI solutions and problems for robotics? Now, I'm sure it is happening out there, but I just can't imagine that it's happening at any larger scale than it is at Tesla. And this new step of adding their Dojo compute power in-house is just another thing that solidifies their advantage over other competitors who can't do that. Now, moving on to what I think is really important news in relation to this topic and Tesla is the version 12 of full self-driving that Tesla is working on, and Elon Musk actually live streamed not too long ago. And with this new version of full self-driving being rolled out and Elon Musk testing it on a live stream, it brings attention to a new type of functional AI. Now, instead of using human written code, setting the rules for the cars while driving, it uses videos of responsible driving scenarios. And the AI determines the best approach during a traffic situation by referencing all the videos within the same system to decide what to do next. Now, the question then arises, why does it matter how the car drives itself, as long as it eventually can actually fully drive itself? Well, the answer to that question is clearly advantageous to Tesla's long-term vision with the Optimus robot. It could be very lucrative if they were able to perfect their training platform and then rent it out to other companies or use it for their own internal products. The reason I say this is because if they can use videos of tasks being done to enable a learning system for self-driving cars, it's pretty reasonable to think that they could use this model to enable their Optimus robot. And I think you get it at this point. They could use it for many different products and even rent it out to other different companies. The reason I say this is because if they can use videos of tasks being done to enable a learning system for self-driving cars, it's pretty reasonable to think that they could use this model to enable their Optimus robot to perform any task assigned to it, such as cooking a meal with certain ingredients, or washing and folding laundry, etc. If they can create a successful model that allows videos of tasks being done to enable a learning system capable of performing nearly any task, they could monetize this by either selling the software/model and licensing it, or selling the compute power of the data centers, or even selling just the product itself that they make in-house. Now, to answer that third question, can Tesla be the AWS of AI training? I think it's really easy for the investment community to understand how this compute power can help them with their AI modeling and training. But I think what many of them fail to consider is, what does their business look like once they've either done that or start to sell this compute power that is specialized in training AI models out there in the world. And even though this is somewhat speculative and there's no real news coming out about them doing this and making agreements with companies, I think it's far harder to ask why wouldn't they do this than find reasons for why they would do this. And I think if we fast forward 10 years and see what's happened, I think that this Dojo computer will be a huge linchpin in their entire business and mark a real turning point. And another great example of how Tesla could monetize this is if Tesla was able to sell their computing power to companies like X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, to assist them with recommendation algorithms, or help companies that are aiming to create chatbots within their own app. All of those things contribute to really build a company that could be a large player in the cloud computing space. So overall, I think if you're reading their most recent earnings report or listening to it and you see the $3 billion price tag on this computer and think, wow, I really wish they would have let that fall to the bottom line and reward investors, then I think you're viewing this investment with too short of a lens. And if you zoom out and see what this can offer the business long term, you will find that this could be one of the best investments that they could make right now. Now, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you think Tesla can really even compete, because I'm sure Amazon, AWS, Microsoft's Azure, and Google's GCP are all hard at work on this exact type of problem. So they are sure to have some competition within this space. But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.